evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Attitude. Have you ever just looked at someone and thought to yourself, I don't like you? Someone has. Now, it may not be caused by anything specific, but you get a bad feeling and it does trigger a response. Hopefully, it's just a mental response and you can still pretend like you are a good person and that everyone who knows you thinks that you are a good person, of course. But our attitude causes us to have preconceived ideas about people we know, people we don't know, and people we think that we know. Also, our attitude has a strong power over us, how we think, what we do, and how we live. In Proverbs 23, verse 7, for as he thinketh within himself, so is he. Eat and drink, saith he to thee, but his heart is not with thee. Some people will tell you they don't have an attitude. They are either in denial or they're liars. An attitude is the filter through which we analyze everyone and everything that we come into contact with. What we have to learn is how to use our attitude productively and steer it toward good. Jesus, when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane, prayed to the Father in Luke chapter 22, verse 42, saying, Father, if thou be willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done. Even knowing the extremely harsh and extremely unfair fate that his physical body was about to face, he continued onward because God willed it for our remission of sins and our salvation. If we are going to imitate Jesus, then we have to also turn over our will to God. We have to study his word and speak our prayers to him, asking that he guide our lives in his wisdom, and then always let him. Look for ways to be who he wants us to be. This should be our attitude. He is wiser than we are. We must become humble enough to surrender to his will. In 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 25, because the foolishness of God is wiser than men, and the weakness of God is stronger than men. I've heard people say, boy, he sure does have an attitude. And it's usually whispered from somewhere behind me. Maybe I should thank them for noticing my good attitude. I'm sure that's what they were whispering about. You know, there are varying degrees of attitude. They go all the way from terrible to great. With faith, we can steer our attitude, and by doing so, we can grow our faith. This is the glorious cycle. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 6, and without faith it is impossible to be well-pleasing unto him. For he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that seek after him. Now, when I was a much younger man, much younger man, I would wake up in the mornings, and my first thought every morning, without fail, was, I wonder what's going to happen today. And I never wondered what good was going to happen. I already knew it was going to be something bad, because something bad happened every single day. I just had to find it and deal with it. My attitude was to concentrate on the doom and gloom instead of looking for the glory of God. Now I know that I should have been reading Romans chapter 8, verse 31. What then shall we say to these things? If God is for us, who is against us? Back then, I was not a Christian. I'd wake up in the morning in my cave, wonder what was going to happen today, pull on my pelt, grab my stone tools, jump in the Flintstone mobile, and drive 80 miles one way to go to work. And I was paid $5.70 an hour. I had just gone through my first divorce. I was paying child support. I was smoking. I was drinking and wondering why everything bad was happening to me. Like I didn't have any hand in it. I remember one day I got paid and I took my check to the bank and I went through the drive-through. And as I pulled away, a brace underneath the hood of my vehicle broke and fell on top of the battery, and the battery exploded right there in the bank's parking lot. Just got my cash, and the truck knew it. Those were the kind of days that shaped my attitude back then. My life then that I've described to you is summed up in Ephesians chapter 2, verses 1 through 5. And you did he make alive when you were dead through your trespasses and sins, wherein you once walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the powers of the air, of the spirit that now worketh in the sons of disobedience, among whom we also all once lived in the lusts of our flesh, doing the desires of the flesh and of the mind, and were by nature children of wrath, even as the rest. But God, being rich in mercy, for his great love wherewith he loved us, even when we were dead through our trespasses, made us alive together with Christ. By grace ye have been saved. God's grace is mercy to humanity. Because of his grace, lives can be changed from desperate to joyous, from without direction to having our eyes on the prize, from the road to perdition to that straight path that leads only to that narrow gate, from being lost to being saved. Attitude matters because eternity matters. If you believe what you've heard, then complete your steps to your rebirth. If you still have questions, then please ask them. If you think you'll step up someday, then shake Satan off and make that day today. If you are a Christian, you need prayers on your behalf, please let us know.